I went to school to become a teacher, an elementary education teacher, and then I switched to Craner business about halfway through. Wow. I would say that I grew up being curious about it. My dad was an executive at a steel mill, and he owned like a house that we rented, and it was up in Wisconsin. And I always thought that was a strange place. Like we lived in Indiana, we had to go up to Wisconsin to check on it. And then, but it was a business partnership with a friend of his, and my dad bought it for a tax write-off. And so I remember at 16 and 17 years old thinking, why buy something just as a tax write-off? Like it would be really cool if we actually made money on it. And so, I guess you go into business for different reasons, but that was sort of my initial spark. And then when I met my husband, well, I mean, obviously it was just a guy, he worked in a family business. And I think that's when it really started to be something that, like, now I had this little foot in the water, and then now I was married to somebody that, was thinking about those kinds of decisions, who do I hire and what do I buy and, what should be my sales and, just all of those every single day. So that was really, and that's actually why I transferred from elementary education to business, was so that I could be a partner, with my husband, in those kinds of conversations and in those kinds of decisions. I have this knowledge of finances that I never would have had if I didn't have to be responsible for payroll and be responsible for paying bills on time in an organization that's, making, I don't know, $800,000 a year or something. So, most families, you have your little bills, and so this gave me a lot of experience in that arena. So that has been a tremendous help. I would say that with that is when I started teaching. When they say that you don't really learn something until you teach it. And for me, I would say that that's totally the truth. So my husband and I, and it's everything we have is it's an LLC, but we call it a partnership. So it's with my husband and his brother, and then the two wives, so that we have this team of 4. And I like it because she's also Professor Purdue. She teaches calculus, so if anyone's needing an in on calculus, let me know. But and then the two brothers they were raised in the grocery business, and then everything that they've done they've always done together. So when I was going to do the barn, that was like the first time that we were going to separate from them and kind of do our own thing. And I kept thinking as it approached, I felt like they probably would have ended up partnering with us, just because we always do everything together. So together we have a vacant lot for sale. We're so close to closing before the end of the year, so that would be super exciting. We have a commercial property, is what you would call it. It's on Earl Avenue, and we have maybe 7 tenants. And it's one of those that's like one road off the main road, so it's a little cheaper rents. And we actually inherited that business. So that was his dad owned it. That was kind of his dad's side project. And when his dad died, that was the boys inherited that. And then we have one apartment building that that we do all the leasing, all the rents, all the collection of money. And then we have 3 buildings that are what we call investment. And so, and that has changed over time. So we've owned more and we've sold some off and kind of defined our business model, and so that's what we own. So that's a really good question. So basically timing. And that ends up being so much more important than you could possibly imagine until you either hit the world's worst possible timing or until you hit like the magic, timing. So to be short, the timing was bad for groceries. The timing was good for like a 30-year mortgage in the apartment. And we were looking at that, I was 25, you know, and you're thinking in 30 years at 55, you could retire.
Yeah.
Right? That seemed, you know, pay off the mortgages and, you know, boom, retire. Everything that you would collect in rent then, you know, with years divided, you know, between
Right.
people. The hardest part is, well, it's wrapped into the same thing, cash flow. So when you think about, and every single business has this issue, in the apartment industry, it's the cash flow of being able to pay your property taxes. So that's the hardest thing. And there's these weird fluctuations. October and May is when you pay your property taxes. And so those months are, you know, stressful. You got to come up with a lot of cash. You never, ever, ever, ever spend the money until you know for sure that it's there, or you know for sure that you can. And it's easy to say, and it's easy to pretend that you'll be disciplined, and it's easy to think that you won't make those same mistakes, and you will. And so I have a friend who was consulting with a lawyer, and he was going to get this great bonus. He was doing trials, and so he put flights on his credit card, and he put hotels on his credit card, and he put food on his credit card, and he was banking on this huge check. And the lawyer did not come through and did not pay him. And so all he had was expenses. And you look at that and you think, oh, how does somebody do that? Everybody does it the first time. And so that was the hardest and the best lesson that we ever learned.